Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is the October 26, 2017 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A couple of announcements tonight. I don't know if anybody's watching, reading in the papers. Last week, National Resources had a press event at the Global Foundry site. September 1st, they purchased 312 acres of the former IBM East Complex for redevelopment. And this is a project that the town has been working with Global Foundries and National Resources to make the laws to allow this to happen. And last week was the announcement from National Resources that they're going to be redeveloping this whole property. As we know, over the years, IBM sold off their semiconductor manufacturing facilities. Now, IBM really was the lifeblood of Dutchess County for many, many years. But as their business model changed, we'd see layoffs. And also because the whole industry changed, you didn't have the people on the line that you used to have in the old days. What you would have is everything went to automation because the levels that they're working at were so small. So there's going to be a natural change in the amount of workers at the site. But it was very difficult, and every year, as I said, it was like death by 1,000 cuts. Every year, twice a year, you read about layoffs, hear about layoffs at IBM. So when Global Foundries bought it, we were already in discussions with IBM about subdividing the property there. And Global Foundries, when they came in, they actually picked right up on that. And I have to give them a lot of credit because I think where we are now is going to set the stage for redevelopment of that whole site. As Joe Cotter, the president of National Resources, said at the press conference last week, it's a 5 to 10 year project. This is very exciting because in my mind, this is like when IBM first came to the town of East Fishkill back in 1964. This is going to set the foundation for a huge redevelopment of the former IBM East site. And they're talking about now not just semiconductors, but different uses. They have a concept plan with a lot of different things. So, you want to diversify the site so that you're not captured by any swings in, say, the semiconductor industry. And I think in the future, we're really going to see a lot of exciting things happen over there. And I'd like to thank my board, this board, the board that served before this board, because we've been working on this since about 2013. And a lot of work has gone into this. I have to thank our professionals too, and our town attorney, our town engineer, our town planner, and our town controller, because of all the work we put into this. It was a very complicated project. But National Resources made the announcement last week, and it's going to be very exciting to see what happens. In addition to that, one of the things we had a problem with over the years was the old West Complex, because once IBM sold the West Complex, there was no sewer for the West Complex. But we have built a sewer pump station. We've entered into an agreement with Global Foundries that they would take our sewer, I think 200,000 gallons a day at this point, and we have a contract for more if necessary. But what this does, this allows sewage, or I say sewer connections down 52 into the former West Complex. So I think we're going to see redevelopment of the West Complex also. So I really think that the work we've done in the last few years has really set the stage for what is going to be some amazing things to happen down there as far as redevelopment of the IBM properties. So very happy, and thank you to our professionals and this board and the previous boards that supported us in getting these laws changed, and very excited to see these things happening. National Resources is a company that has a background in this. They have a history, and we look forward to bringing their expertise to the town of East Fishkill. So that's my big announcement for tonight, but believe me, this is going to be a tremendous asset to the town. That being said, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilperson D'Alessandro?
Present.
Councilperson Franco?
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro?
Present.
Supervisor Hickman?
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The board has received the minutes of December 28, 2017, and the special town board meeting that was held October 5, 2017. Madam Clerk, have you received any amendments, changes, or additions to either of those?
No, I have
meeting
not.
minutes?
I have not.
Okay, that being the case, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for September 28th and the October 5th special town board meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. We have nothing tonight under receipt and file. Public comments on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on agenda items? Anybody at all? Now, we do have a public hearing coming up, so if you want to speak on the public hearing, you might want to wait for that public hearing to be open. But any other comments on any of the items on the agenda? Excuse me.
Good evening. Just one question from the agenda. When it comes to at the end of the agenda where it says public comment on town issues, will there be any, will it be comments only without any response from the board as it was at the last town board meeting? Or will there be response available from the board?
The item that's listed on the agenda as take public comments on general town issues, that's what will be done. We will be taking comments, that is it.
Okay, so you as well as the rest of the council members are not
We're going to be
permitted?
taking comments.
Okay, can I finish my question, please?
Absolutely.
Are you forbidding the other council members from commenting as the chairman of the board?
I never tell the council they cannot respond.
So the
But
other four
that part
members
of the
of,
agenda, as you understand, is for comments.
so the other four members can respond if they would like to?
Absolutely, this is America. They would like to respond, they can.
All right, because it has said what it said on there for many months, if not years now, and you've responded back and forth.
No,
it
this
only
is
said
not a
comments.
question and area, this is not a question and answer
I'm
period.
just saying, it says the same exact
This
thing.
is not a question and answer period, this is only comments.
As I stated, it has said the same exact line on there.
Should I
for-
explain it
You keep
again?
interrupting me. I don't need you to explain. I'm trying to explain to you
Mm-hmm.
that it says the same thing that it's said for months on there,
Mm-hmm.
and there have been questions and answers back and forth. But as of last month, you decided it was strictly going to be comments without any responses.
We will-
And I understand that's what you're doing tonight, but I just wanted to make the point that you are saying it says that, so we're sticking to that, but it has said that in the past, and you varied from it, so thank you for clarifying.
We will be taking comments tonight.
Mike, just to clarify, if anybody addresses me in particular, I will be answering the question. I mean, this is the time when the community gets to communicate with the board about whatever the issues that you might have, whether they are on the agenda or whatever public comments you might have.
Well, I would say to that, again, I don't wish to get into a question and answer period. And we've seen in the past where we have offered that to the public, and it's gotten way out of hand. Question and answer periods don't have to be done here. Anytime anybody in the audience can make an appointment with any of us or any of the professionals to speak about any of these matters. So I wouldn't want anybody in the audience to feel that, gee, I don't get my time to speak when you can make an appointment or, to talk to any of us any other time. So. Yes, sir, comment?
Yes, my name is Anthony. I'm Anthony Elling. I've been a resident here for 14 years. This is regarding the proposed special assessment on the budget.
Anthony, as I said before, do you have a question on that, on the special assessments?
Yes.
Okay, would you just-
It's a public comment for, on.
Would you wait till we open the
item.
public, till we open that up? We haven't opened that up yet.
But you said on the agenda items.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to make a comment on it, absolutely.
This is the agenda,
Oh, absolutely.
right. My comment is regarding the proposed assessment. I'm usually on the impression of assessment, a special assessment especially is something that's, special, it comes and it goes. Seems like we've been having special assessment on the same thing. I know, I've been getting them at least last 3 years or so. Why isn't it just a regular budget item if you're gonna keep assessing it every year? And to follow to that comment is, I've been living, like I said, I've been living in the town for about going on 15 years now, and it's probably the worst water service I've ever had. I've been complaining to, I don't know, whomever for 10 years, every year, and I get the same story every year. So my problem is that you guys constantly assessing it and raising my rates, but never delivering on any service. I think that's like totally unfair. I don't mind paying more, but it's like any of you guys, if you went to the store, you're willing to, you buy some milk. You don't mind paying more if you're gonna get what you're paying for. You guys are, they're constantly charging me every year, and I'm fighting it. I've been having a petition here, and from the people, because I'm a pretty small district, Revere Park is a pretty small water district, and I just don't understand why I never get any answers. I can never get any answers. I get the same song and dance. I've been talking to you guys. I've been with the state oversight committee looking into this. I just don't understand. You guys have been supposedly switching me over our district for 8 years now. We're going to switch you. We're switching you. We're being held up by the state oversight. I don't know. So that's my comment. I just don't understand why we're constantly paying more and more, but yet I'm not seeing any results. I can't imagine it takes 10 years for anything in government. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
Ed Sloshower, good evening. Just a quick comment just before the public hearing starts, and just an observation. It took me an awful lot of time to find the budget on the website. Just a FYI, I think maybe for the future, if when you get to the website, something as important as this, there's an icon, budget hearing tonight, click it on, and takes you right to the budget. It was just a little difficult navigating in order to find the budget. So just a suggestion moving forward for the future.
Anybody on, excuse me, anybody else in the audience like to comment on agenda items? Okay, there being none, next item on the agenda is public hearings. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for the special district's budget? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing is now open. We do these things, tonight is the public hearing on the special district's budget, and this would include water districts, sewer districts, drainage districts, and sidewalk districts. By law, we have to send out the notice, and many of you have been getting. We've been doing this for years now. But for the gentleman from Revere, I'd like to just talk a little bit about Revere, obviously. And I'd like to see, Mark, what is Revere going up this year?
Yeah, Revere is one of the few districts that is going up.
Yeah.
By 12%.
12%. 12% of,
So
sometimes the percentages sound like.
okay, so they would have paid per benefit unit $259 last year. It'll be $292.
Yes, Mark, speak into the microphone if you would.
The rate is going for a household, most of the households in Revere Park would have assigned 100 benefit units.
Right.
For them, it would be increasing from $259.74 to $292.21.
Okay, okay. And that's separate from the O&M. That's the
That's the tax.
That's a tax. That's the
Right.
one-year tax.
One-time property tax.
So you get a property tax bill for that amount, and then the O&M, which is another part of another budget, which will be done later in the year, or beginning of next year. Talking about Revere, because what we did is, last year we had 2 votes, and we refinanced some of our outstanding bonds, which actually saved a lot of our districts money. But we have these problems with these small, older districts. What's the one over there on Dorian Drive? What's the name of that district? I'm trying to think of that one over there. Dorian Drive? That's not Pinewood, is it?
Is Dorian Pinewood? Yeah, okay.
Is that Pinewood? Yeah, yeah. And some of these older districts have been very difficult because they're small districts formed back in the 60s, old infrastructure, and they keep breaking. And it's a problem. Now, Revere's been a little bit, been more of a problem than Pinewood because we have issues with the wells. We've spoken with Board of Health over and over about the wells and the source of the water for Revere. And actually, 5 years ago, we put in a pipe. We have a connection to another system right over there, right?
Redview too.
Yeah, we have a pipe that's 5 feet from the pump house, and Board of Health won't let us connect. Now, 5 years ago, they said, oh, if it's an emergency, you can connect. Well, since they've changed their mind, we cannot connect. And it's very frustrating to us, as it is to everybody that lives in Revere, that, gee, we could tie into this source, but they won't allow us to do it. We have to prove that there's substantial water and enough storage. So, let me just say, they keep setting the bar higher and higher for this approval. And I understand your frustration, and Revere's always been a difficult one. But down to the increases, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, until I believe, and you can correct me on this, Scott, once we get the water main over there, that's going to be coming from the Cannon well field over there, then that should resolve all the water problems.
Yes.
But then, of course, there'll be a cost to that water, but at least you'll be getting good water, because I agree with you 100%. You understand milk goes up every year, but at least you can drink the milk. You know, here we have a water issue that doesn't get any better, and yet the rates keep going up. And to that, I'd have to think it's simply, is it a lot of breaks, Scott? Is it water main breaks?
I don't know what's
clean outs,
the result
probably
of-
back flushing some of the lines. I know it's been rather intense with the,
Yeah, I mean, I would say a large part of it can be attributed to brakes.
Brakes.
And the cost of repairing the brakes
Yeah.
not being borne by.
I think one time we had to bring tankers in too. The lines drained, we had to bring tankers in to
Okay,
provide
yeah,
water.
yeah, so it's been a problem, and it's a small system, that's one of the problems, that's why the issues with Revere, but I don't know what your O&M rates are gonna be, but your rates are gonna go, the benefit unit is gonna go up from what, Mark?
From roughly $259 to approximately $292.
Okay.
And that is one of the few that's actually increasing. Most of the water and sewer are decreasing, but.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate with the others, we've been able to do the refinancing, but this one, I think Pinewood, and there might be one other of these smaller districts, so they kind of got us, and we understand how you feel. But with this, unless we could connect you to something else where there's more people to pay the bills, you know, that's kind of just a problem with being in an old district like that. So we're trying our best. Believe me, we don't make money on this. And for many years, we actually subsidize it out of the water fund, but we have to get to a point where that's paying for itself. So it's very difficult, sir, and I understand how you feel. I wish we could have made that 5-foot connection years ago. But Board of Health has been very difficult about it. So where are we with the project?
Can I just add a little brief history to this gentleman's point to kind of, I've been here 10 years, and I think right from the early part of my tenure here, we knew Revere Park was an issue with the water quality. We first looked at putting, filtration in Revere Park itself. Problem with filtration is you have to be able to backwash it, and you have to be able to dispose of that material, and their well field's right in a wetland, so we can't dispose of it there. So that pretty much killed that idea. From there, we looked at connecting to Breadview. We ran pipe with 5 feet apart, but we would have enough water at Breadview. And then the
Yeah.
health department, upon a little more review of the numbers, said we didn't have enough water. So then we drilled the well. Thought being we already had filtration at Dogwood, which is now Fishkill Plains. All we have to do is drill a well, get more water, make that connection, and we solve the problem. Drill the well, that there's a period of drilling the well, getting the money to drill the well, all that stuff, and then we test the water. When we tested that water, it came back that there was a likelihood of surface water influence. Even though the 2 existing wells didn't have that same test result, the 3rd well did. Now, once that 3rd well tested, now we got to put filtration in. Now we got to expand the building. Now we have to make all these other upgrades that we didn't anticipate. So we put it out to bid. We came in at almost a $500,000.
Yeah,
You crunch
yeah.
the numbers, everyone's rates are going to go through the roof, okay? And we took a step back, because is that really the best approach? While that was all going on, the EPA project started moving forward to bring water to Ryan Drive, which is now a go. We have wells now across the street. We've just built a new tank, and because that project is going to fund substantially the improvements that are required to both get the wells online, provide new filtration at the hamlet, the booster system that's going to be required. Now, at this junction, it makes sense to extend the line to Revere Park as well as Worley, because now that's on
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
And then the two of you can share the expense of running that main out, and we think at this point we've got a firm solution of how to get the water out there.
Hasn't been easy,
Redview,
though.
And a side note to Dogwood, we've been trying to put meters in for the past 5 years to try to get the consumption, our handle on consumption.
Well, if we could prove the consumption to the health department, then they would let us move ahead
And
with the
that would have
connection.
let us move ahead with that connection. Problem is, getting people to put the meters in, let us into their
Yeah.
homes. That's taken time. We've identified now that we've got about 90% of the meters in, that there is a lot of water loss at Fishkill Plains, but the hard part is finding it. So I understand your frustration, why does it take so long? But it just, you know, with the health department and trying to chase down all these loose ends, it just takes time. But we
Yeah.
know we have a definitive course now. It's probably another year and a half. I think we made an
Yeah.
18-month commitment
something like
to
that.
the EPA to have water ready for them, and I would think that project would fall along that timeline, so.
Yeah.
But you understand, we can go spend $1 million and solve any problem, but what's your rate gonna be? Is your water bill gonna quadruple? And we try not to do that. We try to manage it so it's a reasonable increase.
We're paying for buying water anyway.
Right, you're buying water, yeah.
Water,
Yeah.
we're paying for water we can.
No, I
So
understand.
I'm paying the same, I'm paying $1 million anyway.
Yeah, well,
No, we understand that.
Scott, could you explain to everybody why the surface water infiltration is such a big problem?
well, you know, you're going to have bacteria potentially in the water,
Right.
and it's not proven definite, just that it has the potential. There's a big maybe. And because it is your drinking water, the health department's approach is if there's a chance, a remote chance that you might have this problem, then you have to provide the filtration.
Well, and to that point, I would say with a lot of these older systems, when they passed years ago with flying colors, the health department rules over the years just gotten stricter and stricter and stricter. And now they look at the older systems just like they look at the new systems. What we had to
Like
do.
Revere Park, we looked at it, we took a hard look, and he said the wells are 25 foot deep. The iron and manganese concentration is so high, and the yield is so low, why put money into this old system?
Exactly.
You know, put money into better wells with strong yields. You know, that was the idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a poor source to begin with. So at the end of the day, we hope to take that completely offline. You'll get the storage from the hamlet, you get the filtration from the hamlet, you'll get fire protection, I mean,
Yeah.
but it takes time.
Well, the storage tank is built.
Storage tank's built.
The water main is up at
We have our
DOH.
DEC permit across the street. We've
Yeah.
submitted Phase 1 to the Health Department. I think, actually, we got our approval on Phase 1, which is to get the water to Fishkill Road.
Good.
Phase 2, we just submitted, which is to bring the raw water out and bring it to the hamlet. And right now, we're working on the design for the filtration and booster pumps at the hamlet. So, but it's a process.
Yeah. It's been difficult, believe me.
Well, as I said, we've made a commitment to the EPA to have water available to them in 18 months, okay? And we're going to work on your main concurrently with that. Now, again, with Worley Homes, that we're moving forward with that, it
Now we
helps
just, yeah.
more people share the expense of running that main out. And the $500,000 that we would have spent on the additional filtration at Fishkill Plains goes a long way to get that main out to
you
you.
guys.
That water line out to you.
We understand. And it,
Every time, I just want
yeah.
you to know.
And it ain't,
I don't think we've ever spoke, but, you know.
I've heard it said over and
oh, sure, sure.
6 months, 18 months,
Yeah,
12 months.
but as I explained,
10 years.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
explained, like, we were gonna drill a well, simple, drill a well, $125,000, make the connection, and then we get the result of the
Huh.
water, which was different from the two wells that were 25 and 40 feet away, and no one anticipated that. Okay, and then you start getting into the design of that, and one thing impacts the next thing. You know, now you got filters, there's more pressure on the system, you have to upgrade the pumps, now the generator won't handle the bigger pumps, you have to upgrade the generator, and on, to the point where, geez, it's a $500,000.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back, because we thought it was a $125,000 fix initially. So, you know, when you're back and forth with the health department, you can't anticipate every result of every test that you're gonna do. But that's where we're at.
But you can always call and see where we are with this thing. Did you say you had a petition? Why don't you submit it to the clerk? We'll have it on record. I mean, believe me, we don't need it. We understand. We feel terrible about it. But if you want to submit the petition to the town clerk for the record, we'd be more than happy to accept it.
And again, as the supervisor said, we've been promised years ago, when we put that other line in, that if it was deemed an emergency, that the health department will allow us to make that connection, because it's literally 10 foot of pipe that's missing, that's all that's missing, but the health department won't deem it an emergency.
So just so we hear you. Okay. And it is, again, it's one of those small systems with the brakes and the maintenance, so that's all I can say. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak on any of their water, sewer, sidewalk or drainage districts? Please come up to the microphone, and more than happy to have you.
My name's William Griffiths. I just moved up here in '68. I find out that now I really appreciate the fact that I had a standalone home with my own water system and my own well. I'm now in a shoebox called Wildflower Estates, and the water there is atrocious. But I'm here because I was asked to come just a few minutes before the meeting. I am told, this is third-hand information, I have been told that the sewer charges for Wildflower Estates is divided by the number of units to cover the expense. And I'm here to pass on requests that we feel a more equitable distribution of the expense would be by number of bedrooms rather than by the number of residents. You have people that just 2 people in a unit. Some people you have many, many more.
Good point.
So that's my comment.
Okay, good point.
Thank you.
Can I just,
We'll take that into account.
Supervisor, can I just address that? Or? Can I just address that?
What's that, Scott?
Can I just address that comment?
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about how we were going to do with Wildflower. We didn't do a one-for-one
No,
with
because
the
we have a
benefit
master
unit.
meter,
Yeah,
and it was spread across correctly every unit equally.
right.
And at the time, you know, dealing with the HOA and
We met with the
management-
HOA a
management
couple
company,
times, yeah.
That was the agreement. Now, I've since spoke to the HOA and the management company, because we have got phone calls to that, to the point the gentleman just made. And what we had said was, is if the HOA agrees with all their residents to want to make the change per bedroom count, you know, we can address that, but it's got to come from the HOA. So I don't know if you represent the HOA or just the homeowners, but,
Phone number for them.
okay, because what we don't want to get in the middle of.
Well, that's true.
'cause for every unit that gets decreased, another unit's going to increase.
Going to go up,
So
absolutely.
we want the HOA and their membership to agree and then formally, you know, apply to the town as one voice that this is what we've
Good
agreed
point.
to.
Any other members of the community here with you tonight?
Not with him, but I
With Wildflower?
yes.
Well, if you have a question, you have to come up to the microphone. But we would need to meet with the HOA and run this by them, because as Scott said, the original agreement with the HOA was based on that unit, so.
Good evening. My name is Ann Tacoma, and I also live in Wildflower Hills. I've lived there for about 10 years. Although I live with myself in a 2-bedroom, my concern doesn't have to do with one-for-one, but rather this. When we talked about going into the town sewer, and there was a vote, you know, with membership in our complex, we thought it was a great idea. It was our understanding that it would cost between $400 and $500 a year on our, as a tax line. It's $900. That's the one piece. I'd like to have a better understanding. The other piece is that the first year, our quarterly for usage, which I understand is different, was $60-some. It's now increased by approximately 50% to $90-some. It's a concern, obviously.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering, A, why that is, B, will it continue to spiral? And then the other question is, so this tax line is for the cost of it coming to our complex. Is that to eternity, or is that for a fixed number of years?
Until the bond is paid off, I believe, correct?
Well, at the very least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's 2 lines on your tax bill at Wildflower Hills.
Right.
One is just the cost of bringing the line to Wildflower,
Okay.
right? So everyone there shares equally in that cost, and that's a separate line. And that's, this year, going to be $437, and it should have been about that every year since you started. That very first year, it may have been slightly different because we didn't have a tax bond payment or something, but
It might not have been the full number the first year.
it might not have been the
Might
full
been a
number the
partial rate.
first year,
Right.
but ever since then, that will have been roughly flat. Then there is, you also pay for the bond for the construction of the Hamlet sewer, which is what the extension feeds into. So the Hamlet sewer is a bigger district. And that tax rate has also been fairly predictable. You pay 6/10 of a share in that Hamlet Sewer District. Those two rates will be, now, it's actually going down this year. The Hamlet Sewer is dropping by $100 per benefit unit from $845 to $745. So everyone in the Hamlet Sewer District will see a reduction in their property taxes. I expect that now to stay flat. It certainly won't, I have no reason to believe it'll go up over the next 30 years or so, but
Now, Mark, if I may ask, well, these are fixed costs for the capital improvements, correct?
Yes. These are the fixed costs for the
So
construction.
they shouldn't go
or
up.
the-
I mean, they're bonds, they have a
They
fixed
shouldn't,
rate of
but
interest, so they should not rise.
We were able to reduce them because.
We did the right refinance,
refinanced
so that
the
lowered the
bonds.
one for this bill now.
But what could happen is we could have a major improvement required. That's the.
One never knows, and one would
You
hope
don't know,
not.
but I have no reason to believe that as things stand now, that would be the rate for the foreseeable future. With the operating costs, there was an increase for a 2-year period, and now that is flattened off again, and I would expect that to flatten off and even potentially, well, I don't know if it'll drop, but it isn't likely to increase. With the Hamlet Sewer, when it was originally designed, we expected a certain number of users. We set rates based on having those users. Some of the development projects didn't come through, so we weren't raising enough revenue to cover the costs in that district. But now we do have enough users, so again, unless there's something that I don't foresee at this time, I would expect the quarterly O&M rates to stay constant as well.
Okay.
So the constant at the 50% increase from when we started at 60-some to now 90-some, to stay constant at the 90.
Was that a quarterly bill?
Yes.
That was the quarterly
Yeah.
bill?
Yeah.
Oh, $90 is your quarterly
It's
bill now.
90 and change. It started being 60 and change, 70 and 80, and now it's 90 and change.
That
So
one should probably remain flat, I would think.
We could go back and check it against the map plan. I don't have the map plan with me. but
Okay.
We can see what those original numbers were.
Okay.
And I don't know that, you said that you were told,
when we
certain-
first, when it was brought up in our homeowners meeting,
right,
and there was discussion as to whether or not we should go in or not, and because we had our own system, and it was felt our system was old, just as you talked about
Yeah.
some town things. And so, of course, our question is, not just what's it going to cost me?
Yeah.
And what we were led to believe, I can't say
by the homeowners
told.
association, because I don't think those were numbers that
Oh, really?
we provided. I mean, I'm
We
not,
did, we had a meeting, I think, at the community center. And there was a
Yeah, I
map
think
plan
we did,
report,
yeah.
and I don't have that in front of
Yeah.
me, but we
Yeah.
had a meeting. I think we shared it because we had to do a map plan
Yeah.
report for that.
Right.
And we could just compare to see where you are today versus
Yeah,
where those
I-
map plan numbers are.
And so,
Yeah.
I don't think.
I
we'd
mean,
be far off.
I was
Be far
obviously
off.
not part of the conversation between the town and the president of the board, so I can only say we're led to believe. I
Okay.
don't know who led who.
Yeah, yeah.
But that it would be between 400 and 500 a year between the two line items, and in fact, it's 9.
I'm
I
trying to
remember higher
remember,
than
was
that.
there something that they were not going to have to pay in the fees? Wasn't there something when they first, I thought there was something the homeowners.
The only thing, though, sometimes we do a ban the first year, right? And the rates are
No,
lower.
no,
than-
there was
until
something with the
financing
homeowners.
goes into place.
Uh,
But we'll pull
okay.
that and make that available. It'll be made
Yeah,
available
would you
at
want to
the town
give a
clerk's
call and
office.
maybe stop in one day? Are you available during the day?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you give a call one day, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. We'll go over what the rates proposed to the homeowners association were, and what they are now.
And who should I be calling?
Oh, you can call my office, town supervisor's office,
Okay.
and we'll set something up with the town engineer. If you'd like to do it next week, we'd be more than happy.
Next week I'll be having surgery, but certainly within the next month. I
Absolutely.
would love to
We'd
do
be
that.
more than happy to sit down and
Okay.
talk with you about it. It does appear that the O&M is going to stay flat. That's your quarterly, $90. And we did lower the capital by about $100 for the annual rate.
So we'll
because
see that in the next.
that should be in the
tax bill.
next one, yeah.
That's in it'll be in your property tax bill that you get early next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, what is the lifespan of that sewer plant bond?
There's a couple different bonds. I think they were all 30 years. I think the first one was probably 2006 or 7. And the most recent one was for Wildflower Hills was maybe 2012 or 13, so 30 years from those dates.
So their cost is the two combined bond, the original bond for the creation of the
Yeah, they have
sewer
a
treatment,
fraction
and
of a
then
share of the original, and
has to
then
hook
the
up.
addition, which was a much smaller number to connect.
Okay.
Just like, and if anyone new comes on downstream of that, they'll pay a portion of the Hamlet sewer, and they'll also pay a portion of that line, and that would reduce the current rates to Wildflower if that happens.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak on special districts, please?
Good evening. My name is Charlie Shanes. I'm part of the Brettview Water System. I guess I'm not sure about what's being covered here, whether it sounds more like the town taxes as opposed. I think the last time I was here, we also discussed a usage rate for our quarterly bills.
That will be probably in January.
Okay. I think the last time you lowered the minimum usage from like 9,000 gallons to 8,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't reach the 8,000, but my bill still went up. I don't suppose you've got any numbers about what the average usage is of?
Well, well, with Brettview, we have this metered, so we would know what the average usage.
I can give you an average townwide usage
Yeah.
of between 12 and 14,000 gallons per quarter. And I would say Brettview.
But yours isn't, Charlie, because yours is less than the 8. And what is that, Brettview 1 or Brettview 2? Whereabouts are you?
Out at Brettview, I'm right on Brown Road.
Right on Brown Road?
I can tell you the Brettview 1 tax bill is going to go down by 0.06%, but it's going down, so.
A little bit.
Well, I guess my only real gripe is that when I come into on Brown Road from All Angels, I see a sign that says, please conserve water, but I'm being charged for water I'm not using.
Yeah. It's not doing you any good if you conserve water, because you're still under the minimum, so.
Correct.
All righty, good. And it's a good point, because that's always been a tough one. Yes, sir.
Roy Lewis, I'm also with Brettview.
Yes, Roy.
I stopped by.
Roy, I forgot, I was gonna give you a call back.
just-
You had asked about how the rates changed 3 years ago, and I had that note on my desk to give you a call for the longest time. And I believe we talked about that, and I have to refresh their memory a little bit. But I believe that that's when we did the change to the filters over there in Fishkill Plains. I do believe. But when was that, Roy? Do you want, rephrase your question, so the
Okay, yeah, well, I stopped by early sometime this spring. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I remember that. You went for something, yeah. My apologies on that one, Roy.
You took a nice little note.
Yeah, I
My
know.
water guy will
And
call you up.
Yeah.
And I never received
I
any
know,
kind
my
of
apologies for
contact
that.
back from the water
Yeah.
guy. And
But
I just,
it was,
the cost per gallon or 1,000 gallons had made a big jump, and you said there were significant
yeah.
increases in what you were doing, like filters and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was going to explain that to me. So
Yeah, and that
since
was.
I never got a call
I'm
back. I don't
sorry
know
about
what
that,
you
Roy.
did there, sir.
I know. And that's what it was. I believe when I checked back, you said, how come my water changed from like 3 years ago or someday? And that was when we did the filter project all over Fishkill Plains.
Fishkill Plains, yeah.
And that was the thing. And you're in Fishkill Plains water?
No.
No, I'm on Queen Anne Lane. I assume Brettview.
Okay, same place. Okay, yes. And that was the increase, Roy, was because the added filtration and all that stuff.
Yeah, did they put some other stuff in to make water softeners or something? Because I seem to be getting less of the calcium deposits and stuff.
Yeah, we've got, what, sand filters, green
But
sand?
that wouldn't affect the hardness.
No?
No.
Oh,
Just a regular
maybe just the water's
sediment
getting
filter,
better.
huh? Kind of.
Well, a little more than just the sediment filter, but yeah.
I don't mean to oversimplify it, but
Simple terms, yes.
Okay. My apologies for not calling you back, Roy.
sure,
I had that on the
sure.
desk, so. Always good to talk to you, Roy. Thank you. Anybody else like to discuss the benefit units, special district benefit units? Anybody in the audience? All right, there being none, any questions from the board? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on the special districts budgets?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Special District budget hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the Special District's 2018 budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. We moving on to the resolutions now. We have three resolutions for the evening. The first one set the date for the public hearing on the 2018 budget for November 9th, 2017. Councilman Franco, would you read the resolution, please?
Whereas the town supervisor's budget has been filed with the town clerk within the time period prescribed by law, and the town clerk received the budget from the town supervisor September 29th, 2017, whereas the town clerk has presented said budget to the town board on October 5th, 2017, and whereas the town board would like to schedule a public hearing at the regular scheduled meeting on November 9th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 9th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the town hall for the proposed 2018 town budget.
Thank you, Councilman Franco. Do I have a motion to set the date for the public hearing on the 2018 budget for November 9th, 2017? Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? It just seems like it's probably the appropriate date to set this. If everybody's good, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Councilman Cassidy, would you read the second resolution authorizing the hiring of part-time building/fire inspector?
Whereas the building department has an opening for a part-time building inspector, and whereas it is the desire of the town board to appoint William Gorbett to this position, and now therefore be it resolved that William Gorbett be and hereby is appointed as a part-time building inspector in the town of East Fishkill, and to be paid at the rate of $22.43 per hour.
Thank you, Councilman, and we've all interviewed this gentleman. He's well-versed in fire and building codes, and we will have him working in the building department. He has a lot of great ideas for moving forward, and I'm very happy. I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint William Gorbett, part-time building inspector. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And resolution number 3, declaring certain property to be surplus, whereas the town has a vehicle which is deemed to be of no further use of the town and thus should be considered surplus, and whereas there is a 2003 Dodge Intrepid that the town supervisor has requested be declared surplus material and sold. Now therefore be resolved that the 2003 Dodge Intrepid being hereby is declared to be surplus and is disposed of by participating in an auction process held by Absolute Auctions and Realty without cost to the town. So the car that I've been driving for the last 12 years is going to be put to pasture.
Gray Goose?
The Gray Goose is going away. I'm sorry to say it, but it is time. We got a lot of use out of the Gray Goose, though. That being said, do I have a motion to declare that property to be surplus?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to see the goose go. Budget transfers. Mark, we have no budget transfers tonight?
None tonight.
You could bid on it in the auction.
No, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. All right, now it's the time of the meeting. We're going to take public comments. Before we do, though, I'd just like to announce that today I sent a letter to the DC requesting a 2-year extension on the Hillside Lake grant. I sent it up to DC and also sent them an email requesting a 2-year extension. And there's a fact sheet on the proposal that's coming up on the voting machine. It'd be proposition number 4 to borrow certain funds for Hillside Lake, and the fact sheet will be going out probably in the next few days. So I just want to make that announcement. Now it's time to take public comments on general town issues. This is not a question and answer period. This is a time for comments, so if you please like to make a comment, feel free.
Good evening. Just a quick comment regarding the remarks or discussion or not having a discussion. You mentioned, John, that, you know, there's been times that it's got a little hectic, and I don't think anybody could disagree with that. But I think that overall, a little bit of a discussion back and forth, I think, in my opinion, is good democracy. I don't really think that, you know, I was interested in what this fellow was saying about the water. So I'm not going to be there when he comes into your office or anybody else's to hear that discussion. So to have a little back and forth, you know, I don't think is out of order. All right, thanks, John.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience like to comment on general town issues?
This is regarding another one of my pet peeves. Again, aside from the increases in the water, I get assessed every year taxes like everybody else. I'm not complaining about that. What I'm complaining about is some of the service. Again, about maybe 5 years ago or so, I think Lewis Tree Services, I guess they're contracted to come and take down trees around the power lines and stuff like that. They came in our little development, our old development, and it's a nice development though. You ever been around Brescia? Very nice little. And they destroyed our roads. You know, they put these heavy vehicles. I live in the cul-de-sac. Very nice cul-de-sac. My daughter used to play in there 15 years ago, whatever. They destroyed the road. I've been calling that company, couldn't get a hold of that. Called the town. Nothing. Nothing. Finally, now this is like almost 6 years ago. I guess my other neighbors, they've been calling too. I mean, because it's like this giant pothole kind of down in the cul-de-sac. So it just sits there and it pits, you know, all this water, the mosquitoes. And every time we get the snow removal, the snow trucks the plows just make it worse. So now it's like, I don't know, 10 feet long, big giant gash in the street. So earlier this summer, about maybe 2 months ago, you know, while I was working from at home, I work from at home sometimes. So I'm looking out the window and I'm looking at the highway guys patching the roads. So it appears to me, this is roughly around 2 o'clock. My daughter didn't get home from school yet. Around 2 o'clock or so. So I guess that's the time they get off. And what happened was, I guess they had some leftover blacktop. So they decided to bring it into my little cul-de-sac and drop it and halfway patches the hole. Rolled it one time, got in their truck and packed up and they got out of there. Never came back, never did a quality job, anything. I think it was terrible. I've been trying to call the town, not the town, the building, highway department. I don't understand why we don't, isn't there an easier way to contact this person, leave a message, secretaries? Is there someone around that I can speak to in this department?
Sure, the highway department, there's a secretary that's, yeah, it's very easy.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't get a hold of this person at all. And I've tried calling that number on the line, on the internet. Can't get a hold of the highway department. My complaint is that I just paid, I don't know, $8 grand to have my driveway done. And I made sure it was done properly. You know, if I'm gonna pay this type of money, I wanna make sure a job is gonna be done and I'm not gonna be paying it again. If they're gonna do a job out here, somebody should be, you know, overseeing this work. I mean, this is like,
okay.
This is really like, you know, there's no pride in your work. You just don't just throw some extra leftover asphalt in the hole and patch it and walk away, but yet you really didn't fix the problem.
Okay.
It's terrible, you know, and that's just my comment.
Comment.
Thank you.
Comment noted. Would you like to stay a little bit after the meeting? And we could discuss.
Sure, I will.
If you wouldn't mind. Comment noted. Thank you. Yes.
Again, you just did a repair on Brown Road, very close to Sprout Creek. What happens now is the school buses pull off when they, I guess they're running ahead of schedule or what have you. And that's going to break up the edge all over again.
Okay. Just, where was this, next to?
The Brown Road, just before you hit the
before
Sprout
the
Creek.
Okay. Comment noted.
Anyway, it's going to break it all up again because they're pulling off every time.
Okay.
It's not really designed for that.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience like to comment on general town issues?
Ed Sloshow again, good evening. Just for disclaimer, comments I make tonight are my own personal comments and don't reflect that of the Wappinger Central School District Administration or the Board of Directors. Obviously, we had exciting news with National Resources this past week, so that's obviously a step in the right direction, and congratulations for the hard work for this board and, as you said, John, the prior board. With that being said, I'd like to kind of move a little bit into the town itself. And I believe, Nick, 2 years ago, we had it's almost 2 years, right, November, we had the Business Summit in this room. And unfortunately, I mean, that was a great day. There was a lot of people here. We had a lot of local business owners. We had local politicians. We had some officials from Dutchess County here as well. Unfortunately, we didn't kind of build on that particular thing from 2 years ago. And I do believe that that's something that we should, once again, start to have conversations and start to have some more meetings. It's great that we're looking for, you know, increased tax revenue and large companies to come in on the Route 52 corridor. But what we need to address is what's going on in the town, or obviously what's not going on here in the town, and that's the growth of small businesses. So possibly going into next year, something that we consider is possibly, and there's been some talk a little bit, establishing some type of business council.
Yep.
Something where, you know, we can get some ideas from small, you know, what can attract the small business owner? You know, that's also what we need and what we're lacking. You know, the town, just the way the makeup is, the structure, the buildings, the roads, and everything else, it's a pass-through. You know, we need to get people to come here to park and to shop. Right. And we need to attract those people. And not only for the residents, but from outside, from other towns to come. So that's something I think we need to focus a little more attention on. It's great, 52, and that's fantastic. But we got to create some you know, excitement about filling up all this vacant space that we have in town. You know, we keep giving approvals for people to build new structures, yet our old structures remain vacant. I mean, that's obvious. It's less expensive new than to renovate old. I mean, there's other factors, and, you know, we can debate that and discuss that. But we got to figure out a way to get some small businesses into here, established, and make some, again, not knowing exactly all the codes. We had some changes with signage. We have to develop some ideas of how to attract and, again, lessen some town regulations. So, again, just making a comment to put this forward. Obviously, we're moving forward to a new year with, you know, new leadership, new administration. I think this is something that we should definitely plan on moving forward, especially to work somehow hand in hand with the larger project, because that should attract more people. And if there's people over there, we want them to come shop on their lunch hour or after work and come into town. Okay. Quick thing, just going back over, because we were talking about doing trying to attract some other things over on the West Complex. And I don't know if you know the answer to this, but obviously the buildings that are still standing behind the proposed dome project are a huge eyesore. Have you had any conversations with Global Foundries as to getting rid of these buildings? I mean, is it their idea just to leave them and to, when the property is sold, it's the responsibility of the new owner? You know, right behind the dome and then over right behind Corporate Park, if you drive back there. I mean, I'm surprised the film company hasn't come as a location to use that, you know, for a zombie apocalypse episode or something. It's bad back there. And it concerns me because we've done a lot of rehab work at the school, on the fields and everything else. I don't know if there's contamination or anything back there. I don't know if anybody actually goes back there, other than maybe Central Hudson, if they got to, you know, fix a power line or something. So I don't know if there's been any dialogue, since you guys have all been working very hard to revitalize that area, and now we've got these two big eyesores. So I don't know if that's, you know, again, if you've had any discussions with that, but if not, I would hope that moving forward into the new year, you would have some discussions with Global Foundries over that. And the last thing is, this is the last meeting before the November 7th election. And I was just curious, as obviously Nick is on the ballot running uncontested for supervisor, so obviously the outcome of that is inevitable. And I do believe there are then 2 years left on Nick's councilman seat. What is the board's, or maybe Tom might be able to answer this if he can. What is your procedure?
Sir, there's a time for comments, so.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just putting it out there. That's fine. I'd just be curious as to what is the board's procedure going to be to fill that seat? Is there going to be nominations from the board? Unfortunately, for the last 2 years at the school district, we've had 2 trustees resign. Therefore, we've had to fill 2 vacant seats. Obviously, I don't know whether you follow, municipalities follow the same thing as school districts, where people are allowed to submit applications, and then there's a pseudo-public interview process, or is it nominations from other councilmen? Is it nominations from the floor? I would just think, since this is the last meeting, there should be something on the website to let the public know exactly what the process is going to be to fill Nick's seat, obviously, as he's going to slide over to supervisor come January 1.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brightland Solar owns that parcel, not the
Any other comments on general town, any other comments on general town issues?
Before you start your comment, Mike, I know that some council people in the town supervisor usually take notes when questions are asked. Since there is going to be no dialogue answering the question to the community, when is the community going to get the answer to their questions?
Sometimes it happens at the next town board meeting if the councilman or a supervisor like to make an announcement. Sometimes we reach out, we'll be talking with people, and as I said, we're always available. Anybody would like to give us a call?
I understand, but, you know, since the inception of this country, these town hall meetings were created where the public gets to address their elected officials. Now, since we have chosen to just write the comments, my question is, when are those answers going to be given? Because tonight, when you made the comments, there were general comments about stuff that is happening, very important news to the community. But I believe that at the last and the previous to the last meetings, questions were asked in general terms, and I saw people taking notes, but I don't see any answers yet. So it is important,
Absolutely.
if we're not going to dialogue with the community, to take those comments, but give them the answers.
Oh, absolutely. We've
That's
said,
just a suggestion that I make.
no, absolutely. We've said in the past, too, that sometimes we will not, back when we had the Q&As, which got a little bit difficult, we've always said in the past that we may have to respond to the next meeting. We have done that in the past.
I'd like to piggyback on that comment, actually, and make a suggestion, because I don't know what the percentage of people that work a full-time job is in East Fishkill, but I'm sure it's quite considerable, and these people cannot make it to the town board while the supervisor is here, let alone to discuss anything with the supervisor and the council members at the same time, who are ultimately the team that makes the decisions. Perhaps it could be considered that there is one late day per week that you are made available. So people that work a 9 to 5, say, job can swing by here on their way home from work. And possibly the town hall, some people are here until 7 p.m. Maybe they start later and leave later, however you want to work that out. I think it would be very beneficial, because you keep mentioning just swing in, but personally, I can't just swing in. I wouldn't be able to get here in time. I would have to take off work to swing in and talk to you. Just something to think about possibly for the future of making yourselves available and transparent. The reason I'm up here is it's my understanding that today there was a informational video made referring to the November 7th proposal for a $3 million bond to, I'll say, rejuvenate Hillside Lake and make it into a public recreation area, or up to $3 million. And when it comes time to have comments from the town board, I think several people would appreciate if we can get a summary, again, of what that proposal will do for the town, possibly the pros of that proposal. I know it was mentioned it would be, the negative is, in many people's eyes, that it's a $21 per year tax increase for a $300,000 house, which comes to $14 per year for a $200,000 house. And you can look at that many ways. That's not even a movie and a bucket of popcorn worth of recreation that you're paying for a whole year of what a diamond could be made out of Hillside Lake. The various amounts of recreation that are available there. If it's done right, it could potentially bring in much higher building projects, sort of like Park Slope was once run down, and now probably not many of us can afford a house there. Many other areas in New York City and all over, they were rejuvenated, and the costs of the housing, the younger families moved in there, and I think a large recreation area in Hillside Lake would definitely bring younger families there. It's a closed-in community with 2 entrances and only 1 exit, which brings a nice safety factor for anybody that was to come in there and cause trouble, as well as having, if you are a family and you have your children, you know they're nearby because they have the recreation there, rather than riding their bikes through into town or someplace else. I've previously held up a map that showed the various recreation areas in the town, and that it's severely lacking in the northern quadrant of East Fishkill. So again, this proposal has a lot of merit as far as bringing something for everyone there, and I shouldn't say everyone. There'll always be someone who says they don't want it, they won't use it, and that's understandable. As I said before, there are many things in the town that I don't use, but I still pay my taxes towards them. One of the questions I wanted to ask, but I understand it's just comments, I wanted to know the number of taxable properties in East Fishkill and the percentage of the budget for recreation and community events, and then relate that to the $21 per year for a large recreation area where the sky's the limit as what can be done there. As I said before, it's a 26-acre lake. That is larger than the entire property of Red Wing Park, including the beach, the land, and everything that's in there. It was proposed to reduce it to 16 acres, possibly by pushing the dirt to the side. Red Wing Park with its land is 18.7 acres, just in comparison. There are all, and we're talking 16 acres of just water. That's not including the lands themselves that would be coming along with that. So again, if it's done correctly, we have a huge asset for this town to make this town even more desirable to live in the northern area. So I'm wondering if we can just, anybody up there when it comes time for you to talk, and just give a rundown of what you see the potential being for, should this pass, this $3 million bond pass and go through, what you see the potential for the town and how it would benefit. Because obviously if there were a lot of negatives, you wouldn't have made the proposal to do this. So obviously you foresee many positives from this, and you're putting it out to the people to decide. So if you could possibly make a public service, somebody up there could make a public service rundown of where they see the possible benefits for the average East Fishkill resident / property owner. I think that would be beneficial, being the vote is coming up and there hasn't been very much talk on it. Other than that, I wanted to ask what the plans, if it fails, what plans B, C, and D were. Obviously, we're not answering questions, but if on your commentary, you can fill us in on that, we'd like to know in advance. And other than that, I thank you for putting that proposal out there and giving it a shot.
Good evening, John Curzio, Stormville. I'd just like to update the board, as I have done periodically, on the Carmel School District. I'm a member of the school board. However, my comments are my personal opinion and not necessarily reflective of any other board member or the board as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for allowing this forum. And again, thank you to Councilman D'Alessandro for being the liaison. Of course, our students are back to school. Last month, the board toured the buildings. It was a great job by our facilities and maintenance crews for all the buildings. Buildings look fantastic. They always do a great job. We had Constitution Day for the first time in our schools in September. There were programs and activities for our students from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade to learn about the supreme law of our land, and it exemplified one of the 6 C's of Carmel, citizenship, so that was a great day. There was musicals for our elementary students and different essays and questions for our upper level grades. The board continues to update our board policies, which we have done on a regular basis. There was a discussion on the Cold War veterans tax exemption, so I'd like to also thank again Councilman D'Alessandro, who was able to provide some information that I asked of him, which will be beneficial to our board to have more information available as we continue that discussion. And that question was just our board had originally sought out information on how many veterans potentially would be eligible for such an exemption, and so thank you again for providing that information. The board, there were also 3 members that were able, including myself, that were able to attend the New York State School Board Convention earlier this month. It's a professional development for our school board members, such seminars as budgeting practices, a lot of concentration on the opioid crisis, which has affected our communities, unfortunately, and different remedies for treatment, intervention, and support, as well as a conversation with our Commissioner of Education. So that's about it for this month. And again, thank you very much for continuing to allow this dialogue. It's much appreciated.
Comments.
Hi, my name is Greg Vogt. I'm a resident of Hillside Lake. You've probably heard more about Hillside Lake than you ever thought you wanted to hear in the last few months. But I would like to just say 2 things very quickly. One, thank you very much, Councilman, for coming to our meeting a couple of weeks ago at the firehouse. We had what I thought was a very productive meeting between 4 members of the council and residents from the lake. We talked a lot about the future, the potential, and what we were kind of getting excited about. And I think we turned a page, which is what we really needed to do. We had spent a lot of time talking about what's happened in the past. While it's informative and helpful, it's not always very productive. What we focused on was, I thought, a productive discussion about what the potential was and what this bond issue coming up in November might do for us. So thank you, Councilman, for coming to our meeting, for being active participants in the discussion, and for being positive. Also, today we shot a video promoting the proposition. And again, I would like to thank you all for allowing us to participate in that, getting behind the proposition and putting it out there and giving it a shot. I think we have an opportunity to create a town asset from what has been, quite frankly, in the last few decades, kind of a liability. We could take something that environmentally is not very positive and create something that could be a great resource for people, much like Red Wing Park is, Emmeline is, the former East Fishkill IBM facility. We have a lot of great things going on at East Fishkill. I'd like to add another one to the list, which is Hillside Lake, and create a new momentum and a new future for Hillside. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Comments are appreciated. Those comments were appreciated. Anybody else like to speak, make comments on general town? Would anybody else like to make comments on general town issues? Okay, there being none, there's time for comments from town board members. Anybody in the board like to comment? Excuse me.
Well, I'll start. I'd like to thank the 3 members that came today from Hillside Lake. We did have, like Mr. Voigt said, we had a filming with 3 residents from Hillside Lake that came, and they really gave an information session for all the people of East Fishkill to know what the Proposition 4 will be on back of the ballot this year, and that is for Hillside Lake to become a town-wide park. So they gave a little history on the Hillside Lake. They gave some information on the proposition, and they also gave some information on what could possibly be there. And a lot of that came from the meeting that we held at Hillside Lake Firehouse with the members of the community and members of this board. And like Mr. Voigt said, we were discussing possibilities of many different things. Winter sports, summer sports, anything, fishing, walking trails, walking path around the lake. There's many, many different things. What I think will happen is, if this does pass, then we will form a committee in the community with members of Hillside Lake, members of the town government, members of our professional staff, and members of our recreation staff, so we could come up with the best plan possible for that to be a townwide recreation facility. Now, it will play probably, I'm hoping, from Monday through the election, and it will be on Channel 22, played throughout the day. And if there's any questions, we'll include a number and the email address. Mr. Voigt said that there was a email from the Hillside Lake Park District that members who used to live there, they formed a website to show what it used to be and how Hillside Lake was thriving years ago. So there's information out there, there's information to find out and ask questions, and I urge people to do that, because we have an opportunity here for a really nice facility. And I think that you should listen and keep an open mind. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Just one quick one. Hometown Heroes, I just want to thank everybody again. The banners were a tremendous success. Councilman D'Alessandro and I, we couldn't be more proud of the support that we've gotten, and I want to first and foremost thank Highway Superintendent Billy McClellan for all his help for hanging up all those banners. Since it started, we've gotten a lot more requests than we really thought we did, and that we thought we were going to get, and more are still coming in. Those that are coming in now are not going to be able to get up until Memorial Day of next year. The ones that are up now will be coming down shortly, just after Veterans Day. But also like to thank Roy from Star Printing, East Fishkill Rotary, the Manny Bacon Post, our American Legion guys, and everybody else for participating. It was a great success, and we're very proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a very, very good, really an impressive program. Also, we should thank Gina.
And
My
Gina, how can I
secretary,
forget
she
Gina,
really
who's
does a terrific job in keeping these things going.
Yes.
And you know, it's so funny because the other day we were down, we have a fire pit down there where we retire our our American flags on Flag Day. The fire pit itself had been an Eagle Scout project. We recently had an Eagle Scout go down because it's always just there in the grass, so he puts some bricks around it. So we were down there the other day, and Gina said to me, gee, why don't we do something like they have at the community center for the veterans? If you're a veteran, you'd like to have your name on a brick, and then we'll put the brick down here by the fire pit. So that's something that we might look into doing in the future. So I think that was a great idea because, you know, honoring our veterans, and I'm so impressed with how many veterans served and seeing them out there on the telephone poles. It's just amazing. So I just want to bring that up. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. I mean, I want to thank, first of all, the 3 members of the Hills LA community that today participated in the filming and videotaping of the program that will be aired. Very well done, and thank you for your participation. I think the Hills LA community has come a long way. It is a beautiful community. A lot of great, nice citizen people. I've seen a lot of young couples move in just recently. I would say since last year. I met probably about 5 families, young families, that they bought houses over there. So that's a good sign. I think that once we get this program rolling, and that community is really going to thrive again, and we might see additional recreation for the whole town. I am very positive that this will happen. I mean, I remember when we started the meetings with the community, there were probably 3 members in the room. Lately, I believe we had 30, 40 people that they want to participate and they want to do the right thing for the community. So that is impressive. I mean, this board has been doing a lot of good work in the last 4 years for the town. We have not only kept our taxes in check, but we also found ways to create tax revenues for the taxpayers. I just want to put out a message that I know some people in the community have addressed, how do we fill up those empty spaces? If we create an environment for the community, for the business community to come in and do business in East Fishkill, we will fill up those spaces. I believe that we have worked toward their goal. In the last 4 years, different projects that we've been working on, we've been very cohesive in working to better the business environment in the community. And again, the idea is that if we could create more taxes from the business sector, of course, the private sector taxes will not increase. My goal even will be to say one day to the people in this community that we're going to lower your taxes. I mean, that doesn't seem to be so bad after all. Thank you, everybody on the board.
Anybody else?
Just a couple little quick things. Officer Tarpey from East Fishkill PD retired last month. Just everybody have a safe Halloween this weekend with the kids. Watch the kids. They'll be out on Tuesday, I believe it is.
Tuesday night, yeah.
And last but not least, get out and vote.
It's true.
Get out
Election
and vote.
day is coming up.
One day you get to say whatever you want, and nobody knows.
And nobody knows. All righty. Okay, if that's it for the board tonight, the next town board meeting will be the budget hearing and the regular meeting scheduled for November 9th, 2017. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.